Next, we're going to be working in the tab known as random. Now, it's not because I'm throwing in a bunch of random formulas. We've already been kind of experiencing a bunch of different formulas so far, but it's going to be actually the formulas that generate random numbers. They're random number generators. These can often become very useful whenever you're doing different types of statistics or different simulations, stuff that we're not really going to cover obviously in this class, but I use this random number generator actually quite often, especially whenever I'm trying to come up with assignments for this class and I'm trying to come up with random numbers or random dates in between two different dates, because that's when the calving season is, and the calving is at random or the farrowing's at random, or I'm trying to figure out different yields on a piece of property on crops, and I'm coming up with a fictitious amount. I know what my boundaries are, so I'm trying to come up with random numbers in between. Well, I'll go ahead and show you how this random number generator works. So what we're going to do is we're going to start off by using this equals rand. What the equals rand does, it is a random number generator, but it generates random numbers between 0 and 1, and that's it. So whenever we do this random number generator, this formula is one of the easiest ones to type in. It's just equals rand, open parenthesis, close parenthesis. And what that does is if we can see that it generated a random number in between 0 and 1. And if we drag it down, first and foremost, we see that those random numbers can change, but they're generating a wide range of random numbers. So here we want to generate 50 random numbers between 0 and 1. And if we just drag that all the way down, we see that we now have random numbers between 0 and 1, 50 of them. So though I'm going to go through that again and show you that formula one more time, or a couple more times. That's just equals rand. Open parenthesis, close parenthesis. Equals rand. Equals rand. Then I want to just drag that down, or I'll just make that go all the way down to the bottom. And that's generating 50 random numbers between 0 and 1. And you might not ever need this random number generator, but if you ever get into statistics, if you ever get into dealing with simulations and you need to generate a bunch of random numbers dealing with a series of possibilities, this could be a good, valuable way to do it. Now, what's something that we'll notice is that if we type in any number and we change this sheet, that those random numbers continuously change. And towards the end, I'll show you a little trick to get those to stay the same. But for now, we're going to go ahead and generate random numbers. But what if we want to generate random numbers between, say, two dates or between two numbers? Like, for example, in a lot of my assignments, whenever I'm doing this random number generator, I might be trying to generate random ear tag numbers, and the lowest number is 1 and the highest number is 101, for example. Well, we can't use this rand equals rand because it goes only from 0 to 1. Doesn't really work well for us. We could do some equations and plug in some other ones and to get it into whole numbers and to get it into full numbers rather than just percentages or just decimal places. But rather than doing that, we're going to use a different formula. Rand between. Random between random integers between two values inclusive. Which means all we're going to be doing is we're going to be finding random numbers between a low number and a high number. So here I want to generate 50 random numbers between 2 and 5. Or 2 and 25, for example. So I just go equals rand between. I pick my low number, which in this case my low number is 2. High number is 25. Now I say enter. I'll go over that one more time. We'll do another rand between. High number is 2. Low number is 25. All I'm doing is just typing these in. Then we can drag this all the way down to generate those 50 random numbers. Now if we look at just this cell, we can actually see that they might repeat themselves. So if we go down here to 17, this is the first 17, but 2 rows later we come up with another 17. The random number generators do not generate unique random numbers. They can generate the same random number over and over again. So be aware of that these random number generators can generate the exact same number. But if you're trying to do something that's purely random, such as doing random dates in between for calving to come up with a fictitious spreadsheet, then they can be born on the same day, and that's perfectly fine. There's actually a couple of different random number simulation or generators out there. They have what is known as Monte Carlo and then Latin hypercube, and one of them allows for the duplication of numbers, and that's what we see here. The one that allows for the duplication of numbers, and I believe that's Latin hypercube. That's what's going on here. But the Monte Carlo system, if I'm remembering right, would not allow for these duplicated numbers. That's something that if you ever do get into running simulations, you'll learn about then. But that's just something I would like you to be kind of aware of, that it does duplicate those numbers. And now, we're going to do another rand between, but only this time we are going to be using cell referencing. So I'm going to do a rand between, and instead of typing in two numbers, I'm going to cell reference them. So let's say, for example, my low number is 10, but I have 10 already typed in. And then I have my high number is 60. I'm going to press enter. Now I left something out, and I'll show you what I did. If I drag it down, it starts throwing out values and numbers and different things that aren't working quite right. But here's the reason why. You see how these shifted down? I didn't lock in my first cells. So if you are going to be using a random number simulator or rand between in your cell referencing, you need to remember to always lock in those cells. We haven't had to do much locking in all of these examples so far, simply because, well, none of the formulas require it. But this rand between, you do need to lock it in whenever you're using cell referencing. So now, just like that, we cell referenced two values. We generated random numbers in between 60 and 10. But what if we decide, well, we can't, 60 is no longer our low number. Or sorry, 10 is no longer our low number. Matter of fact, only 1 is our low number. We can simply change that number, press enter, and now we have different values that are below 1 or below 10. So a positive thing about cell referencing this, rather than doing it this way, is that if you ever need to change these numbers, over here you're going to have to change the numbers and redrag that down. Whereas if you're cell referencing, you can simply change those numbers real quick in 1 or 2 cells, and it automatically updates everywhere. Now what about dates? Can we do the same thing for dates? Well, yes, we can. But I'll show you how to do the dates, because the dates kind of gets a little funky. Whenever we're doing dates, we can't sit there and type in 4-1-18, because we're trying to generate 50 random numbers between April 1st and then 6/30/18, comma 6-30-18. That does not work. And the reason why is it's not reading that date. What that's doing is it's saying 4 divided by 1 divided by 18 is the low number, 6 divided by 30 divided by 18 is the second number, and it's not really coming out the way you want it to. So if you're ever doing dates, if you're ever doing random between and you're using dates, put these dates in quotations. By putting the dates in quotations, it allows that computer to read that as a date, and then it will actually start generating random dates. Now, what's going on here is that this computer is automatically reading this as a number. So it's placing that in a number text. So what we need to do is we need to actually change this to date. And now we have those random dates. We can drag that all the way down. We have all of those random dates in between April 1st and I believe, what is that, June 30th. So I'm going to delete that. I'm going to go through that process one more time, just to show you one more time. We're going to do an equals rand between. We're going to put our dates in quotations, 4-1-18, close quotations. And then we are going to do the high date, the later date, is 6-30-18, close quotations, close parenthesis. It's going to generate that random date. We can drag that all the way down. And now we have 50 random dates in between April 1st, and June 30th. Now we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to use cell referencing, and we have the dates already up here. So we're going to use equals rand between. Now, if you remember, over here we had to put the dates in quotations. Here, whenever we're doing simple cell referencing, we're not. And the reason we're not is because this is already being read as a date. It's already in that date format, and it's already reading this as a specific underlying number, which allows it to work without us having to do without us having to put anything in quotations. We're going to lock that in and drag down. It's showing up as a bunch of just different numbers. If you ever have dates that show up as different numbers, it's because those dates, all of those dates have an underlying number component with it. And what it does is, as we drag that down, it's reading this as a number, not a date. So if you ever get just numbers like this, and you're wanting dates, you simply come up here to More Formats, or press this date, and it'll automatically change it to those dates. So what would happen if we got these numbers mixed up? And instead of cell referencing the low number first, we cell reference the high number first, followed by the low number. If it ever does that, it's going to throw up an error. And it's going to say function rand between parameter 2 is this. It should be greater than or equal to this. So if you ever get this error and it says that this one should be greater than the other one, it means you just got them backwards. So you can simply just change that real quick, make sure you've got your high and your low the right way, and you're good to go. Now the last thing I'll show you on this video, I know it's kind of a long-winded video, is that what if all these random number generators are constantly changing, aren't they? Every time we type in a new number and adjust the sheet, it actually automatically changes. So what if we don't want it to do that? If we ever wanted to just say we wanted to generate these 50 random numbers and we never want it to change, we're going to highlight those random numbers, right click, say copy, right click again, paste special, paste values only. Now, what that did is, if we go through it, it's no longer changing. And if we look at each one of these, it no longer has a formula. Like this rand between right here still has formulas in there. What we did is we took and copied just the values, pasted just the values, and got rid of all of our formulas. So we know that we have formulas right here. What if we want these numbers to stay the same as well? We're going to highlight all of these cells, and we're going to copy. So what I just showed you with right-clicking, we can say copy. There's a shortcut to do that. That shortcut is Control-C. If you're dealing with a Mac, I believe that would be Command-C. But if you're dealing with the PC, it's Control-C. C is in Charlie. Then we come back up here, go in this very first cell, and I'm going to press down Control-Shift-V. V is in Victor. And what that does is it pastes values only. It's the same thing as what we did with this paste special. Matter of fact, you can see over here that this says Control-Shift-V as paste values only, and that pastes just the values and gets rid of those formulas. So if you're ever generating random numbers and you need the random numbers to no longer keep regenerating every time we type in a pesky number over here, just go ahead and use that Control-C, Control-Shift-V, paste those values only, and it should take care of that issue.